Hi, good afternoon and welcome to our virtual roundtable. So obviously we'd normally be doing this in a meeting room in London and we'd have a few beers after the event. So hopefully you'll have received your Brewdog vouchers and you'll have exchanged those for beer, and hopefully you'll be having a nice cool beer whilst we do this update. So basically the agenda for today, we were going to talk about Exabeam and the integrations and the updates from Exabeam which have happened over the past 6 months, and then once Dan's talked about Exabeam, I'll then talk about CyberSeer and what really we've been doing and the improvements we've been making to the service. And then really it's a roundtable discussion. So anything you want to bring up, if you would like to see something from CyberSeer or Exabeam, please just let us know. And what we'd like to do as well, because we'd normally have a round table and we'd all be in a meeting room, is if we just keep this session interactive. So if there are questions, just shout out throughout. If you're shy, you can put them in the chat if you want to, but we just wanted to keep it really interactive. Okay. And so let me hand over to Dan, who will talk about Exabeam, and then I'll talk about CyberSeer later. So over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Hi, thanks very much, Ian. So as the title's on the card there, my name's Dan Bridges. I'm the EMEA Technical Alliances Director at Exabeam. And the guys here have asked me just to give a brief update on what's happened with Exabeam and some of the new information that we have. We've actually got quite a lot more Exabeam updates that we could actually even fit into a 30-minute window. So we've tried to focus it onto topics that we hope will be of interest for you. So the first one is some updates to our integrations. Now, by integrations, I mean the sets of vendors that we integrate with. That's both inbound data sources, such as log sources that would either go into a data lake or into an advanced analytics if you don't want them stored. And also our API calls that go out of our incident response platform. So we have inbound and outbound integrations. Now, we've always done this. We've always published our integrations list at exabeam.com/integrations. The last update prior to this one was March. So we normally update it every 3 months, but we were a month late on this one because there was quite a lot in it. But we've added some notable, there's actually been quite a few alliance partners that we've added in and expanded as well. We've listed a few here up on the slide: Corelight, Paolo, BeyondTrust, BlackBerry, obviously the integration of Cylance into BlackBerry as well, and Cybereason, just to mention a few. Some of the more different ones that we've added in. We've also added in some new integrations for IT and IoT as well. All of which might be some use in your enterprise infrastructure that might allow you to enable some more use cases or some more detection methods without really sort of having to, I suppose, spend much more money. You've already got the technology. It's just a case of making sense of it. So have a review of those integrations list if you need. I think probably one of the largest sets of additions we've made into there is our response actions. We've added quite a large list of response APIs into that integrations list as well. So that's expanded out actually quite a lot. I'm not sure if any of you do have the incident response add-on for that, but if you do, there's some more additions to it. If you don't, there's an even larger library that might entice you to do so. So check out that slide, that web page. There's some really, really good quality information into there as well. Next slide, please, Ian. One thing I want to talk about and mention is something about our cloud archive system. Now, for those of you that don't know, our cloud archive system is something we released probably 6 months or so ago, I think maybe even before Christmas, which is actually it's not quite a third tier of storage, but it's an alternative tier of storage. For those of you that have Data Lake currently, you've got 2 tiers of storage. You've got hot storage and you've got warm storage. There is the option to do frozen storage, which is like an off-box archive. For our SaaS partners, for our SaaS customers, obviously off-box doesn't really mean anything. It's in a SaaS platform. And from our point of view, it doesn't really make a difference if it's hot storage or warm storage. We needed an online, instantly accessible in software version of storage, and we wanted to provide a long-term, and by long-term we mean very long-term, 10-year long-term storage at a much cheaper option, as opposed to having it on, you know, the equivalent of spinning disks in a virtual instance in the cloud, which obviously costs a lot of money. So we invented and wrote our new Cloud Archive platform. It's only for SaaS customers. I'm not sure if any of you run on a SaaS platform, but it gives you a bit of insight into what we're doing and how we're developing our Exabeam Cloud platform, and how we're investing and rewriting parts of the solution into much more of a containerized pipeline for processing. Cloud Archive is one of the first steps into that. But this just gives you a little bit of insight into some of the things that we're bundling up for different options of having like hot data and then long-term storage into Cloud Archive. So we just added some new ingestion volumes, daily ingestion volume caps, and some different retention period price points as well. So all of those green new things are all great. They don't feel so good when I look at our price book. It's getting quite long now, but they all give a good sign of the flexibility that we have into this platform to kind of tailor it to the requirements and the needs that you have. Next slide, please.
Just on that, Dan, so are you seeing quite a few customers moving away from on-prem to SaaS services?
So yes, we have. I think it was probably about January time. I think Exabeam actually officially became a SaaS company. We had more customers on SaaS than we didn't. We are seeing quite an uptake on that happen. I think perhaps more recently, maybe that's kind of Corona options, you know, Corona forced as well. A lot of people, organizations have not really had the time to do it, but they've had the impetus to go and make IT projects happen quickly. While everyone's been working at home, they can go and do big rip and replaces in the office, or transitions out into cloud. So we are seeing this happen quite a lot actually with customers as well now.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
So as far as some new product release features happen, I just want to pick on a few of them. There's been a lot in the last 6 months, so I'll pick on some of these. I wanted to have a little run through turnkey playbooks. I think that's something that's quite interesting, and an extra development and maybe something new to look at, as well as some expansion into our cloud connectors portfolio as well. We have, we're probably not going to have time to go into these, but if you do need further information on some of the additional SIM features for the on-premise systems like data lake performance, scaling and search improvements, talk to Ian, talk to the CyberSeer team, and we can get a briefing together or maybe go through some specifics that you've got. But I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of overview on a couple of those. So if you give us the next slide, Ian, I'll just talk a little bit about turnkey playbooks. So one thing that we see in SOAR platforms, so our orchestration and automation and response platforms, and actually Exabeam is actually partly susceptible to this as well, is when an organization decides, right, we're going to go into an automation system, invest in some software and try and speed up some of the telemetry gathering exercises that we do. A SOAR platform, we spend a lot of money on it. Obviously not the Exabeam one because it's great value. And you turn up, you unwrap it, and it doesn't work. Many of our actions are exactly the same. You have to configure them. They need, at minimum, a username and password to interoperate with whatever local systems you've got. They may need more complex configurations and config and flag settings to actually work with how you've got your internal system set up. So one thing that we wanted to be able to do is to make systems work from the minute you turn it on. Exabeam's a little bit different in the marketplace in the fact that, I think I'm right in saying this, I've said it before, no one's challenged me yet, so I think I've got away with it. But Exabeam, out of the top right Gartner vendors for SIEM, next generation SIEM, whatever they're deciding to call it at the minute, we're the only one who has written our own platform end to end. We wrote our own data lake, we wrote our own analytics, we wrote our own incident response platform. Everyone else either third parties or have made an acquisition. That's allowed us to make these frictionless playbooks. We've got a set of playbooks that we can turn on that come with the product that use Exabeam things to operate. So we've plugged into our threat intelligence feed. For those of you that don't know, that's something that comes with our Exabeam platform. There's no charge with it. It's something that you can turn on. We're utilizing our own Exabeam systems that are already integrated. We know how they work, so that we can actually do some turnkey playbooks that will go away and run lots of actions for things like identifying malicious domains and bad URLs, checking file IACs, checking email addresses, and all that kind of stuff. There's no extra config needed. There's no extra licenses required for third-party applications to run. It's all within the Exabeam ecosystem that happens. So that's something we're actually pretty happy with, and that's going to be expanded as we broaden out some of our extra services. If you slip onto the next slide, Ian, I've actually got some sort of pictures of what they look like. For those of you that have seen any of our playbooks, you'll see that this is one here with all the actions written on it. Now you can see the Exabeam logo, the little green E pyramid thing that we have. Obviously, these are all Exabeam actions that are running. Decision trees, things run in parallel. We take the output of one thing and put it into something else and all that kind of stuff. So all these actions and this entire playbook, this threat intel playbook, can happen solely inside Exabeam. So it comes ready to work out of the box.
Okay, so question.
Yeah.
Sorry, question from me then. And so are many organisations now using SOAR? Are they slowly migrating to it and moving to it?
Yeah, it's a good question, Ian, actually. I mean, SOAR has traditionally been, that's been where people think automation happens. So that's where people have put automation dollar budget aside for and gone, yeah, let's buy a SOAR platform, let's automate stuff. Now, traditionally, that tends to make organizations playing a bit of a game like whack-a-mole. They just run an action and it fixes whatever the mole pops up at, and then you run another one and it fixes that one, without actually getting to any of the real problems underneath. Now, again, Exabeam slightly different. You've all seen what we do with timelines and host to IP to user mapping and all that augmentation and enrichment of logs and metadata right in the early stages. That's actually all automation as well. So as Exabeam customers, you've been very, very, very smart in the fact that you've embraced what is actually about 2/3 of the automation effort, which is in the investigation and analysis phases of having the analytics system build that. What we're seeing is as organizations mature and become much more comfortable with that and producing timelines and empowering the analysts, and the analysts get better at using that, they then want to start actually leveraging some more of their internal tools. And then as an analytics platform and as an analytics client matures, then it's quite a good time to start looking and stepping up and then leveraging some of the other internal investments they've made on technology and go for an incident response platform. That means you can start scooping up some of the really easy stuff really, really quick and getting rid of those repetitive cases that are always the same. You can start to automate the response in those and just get those off the SOC team's desk, or giving CyberSeer the tools to then operate something and remove that from them. Maybe even something you can in-house, or just a way to get the repeatable stuff away. So we are seeing quite a lot of organizations actually start moving into that now. There was a bit of a boom about it a few years ago, and then it kind of tailed off again, and people went, actually, I'm not really getting any value out of it. And now, because analytics has got better, and more, to be honest, more people invested in Exabeam as well and can see it, we're now seeing them actually get good value out of the SOAR platform.
Okay, cheers, Tom.
If you flip over to the next slide, you just see a little bit of what we're doing about cloud connectors as well. So we've added quite a few cloud connectors over the last 6 months, year or so. I think obviously one of the ones that grabs the big headlines was when we released in late February, early March, which was our cloud connector for Zoom. Obviously, we were just about to go into lockdown and quarantines and shelter in place over in the US and things like that. We had already been thinking and already done some work with Zoom on this. We fast tracked it, took it to the top of our engineering and QA list, and released it very, very quickly. This gave organizations a huge amount of value in the fact that they could then take in those Zoom logs and start to offer some security analysis and security detection and monitoring of that kind of functionality. So as we moved to that remote working and working from home, we were able to give organizations insight into misuse of Zoom, people changing configuration parameters, and misusing corporate assets for hosting the pub quiz at home over a work Zoom call if work's paying for it, by turning off some of the waiting room functions which would be enabled for people not on the corporate domain and things like that, and eavesdropping and stuff like that. So that's quite an important one that we'd added into that. And again, that's sort of no extra cost for those people that already owned Cloud Connectors. It just appeared. It's something that you could start to use. And that was kind of on the back of quite a few Cloud Connectors that we released for some of the other applications that we see down at the bottom there, like Workday. Traditionally, exceptionally hard to work with. Great tool, great functionality, but exceptionally hard to third party with. So it took us quite a while to get that one out and running. So some good value that came in from those. I think, Ian, if we look at the next slide, you can actually see what we show in a timeline as well. I took some screenshots of some of the outcome that we can produce of that. So you can see there an advanced analytics timeline for Sean. And we can see some of his web conference meetings that have started, the web conference event fed by a Zoom log. That he joined some calls and things like that, and some of those were normal, but then one of these other ones was abnormal. So still allowing us to try and detect those abnormal behaviours after we've kind of learned what normal is. Now that helped quite a few organisations adapt to remote working very, very quickly because of our automated learning. And the anomaly detection, you didn't really have to do anything other than enable the Zoom collector, and then everything came in and worked. And we just started populating timelines and logs with this extra rich set of information that was being used by a lot of employees. So a really good add-on that we had there. Right, my last slide, Ian, and I'll hand back to you. Is I promised the marketing team that I would do a little plug for this. Our Spotlight 20 customer and partner virtual event. It's gone virtual this year. It has been in Vegas and San Francisco and stuff years before, which kind of helps us out a little bit in EMEA. Means we don't have to fly to the US. So registration is open. Registration is free for customers. There are a couple of paid uplifts if you want to do some of the online training and classes and everything that we do. You've probably already been bugged the hell out of by our marketing team anyway, so I won't drag on it too much, but I promise I'll put a slide in there for it. Cool. I'll hand back to you now, Ian. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Dan. Very informative. So what I wanted to do now was just give you a CyberSeer update of what we've been doing, what's new, what we've seen. So I think what we need to actually do is we need to revisit what happened 6 months ago. So home working, what have we learned? Okay, so it was back start of March that we all went into lockdown, and we've not seen anybody since, and everybody's been working from home, and everybody's been meeting everybody virtually on Zoom or GoToMeeting and WebEx, etc. So we had a few customers with a few problems, obviously, when all this kicked off. The problem was that you had your internal workforce coming into the office and they were accessing the applications. Okay, so in-house applications and services. There was no real external access there. So very quickly, we needed to migrate from these tightly bound in-house applications to making sure that they worked globally, really. Okay, so lots of our organizations rolled out new services quickly, and some went to SaaS services to put your applications that way, or others then opened up their VPN connectivity to both corporate and unsanctioned machines, because obviously people working from home and they were probably using their own computers. So new services had to be quickly rolled out. That then came up with a few issues in itself, that actually we now have no visibility of what users are doing. Okay, so if we actually looked at the log sources that we're ingesting before, we were ingesting a lot of log traffic, which was both internal, and now we needed to cater for the exponential increase in the VPN traffic. We did cater for 10 or 20 users connecting via VPN. Now we may have thousands of users connecting via VPN. And so really what we ended up doing, we were looking at more log sources to ingest and actually respond to. Okay, what that then meant as well is actually which log sources add value and how do you get the visibility out of your log sources. If you look at Steam as a typical example, it's based on EPS. Okay, even Exabeam, it's not based on EPS, but we need to scale the hardware to cater for the EPS. So what we ended up doing was we actually reviewing people's logs to make sure they were ingesting the right type of data. If we just ingested all the data from all log source on the corporate enterprise, we'd just be inundated. We'd be going out buying new appliances just to cater for that demand. And so basically, as an exercise, we were working with our customers, looking at how to efficiently utilize their infrastructure and just pull those logs which actually give us the visibility that we needed. So basically that's what we've learned from the last 6 months. So hopefully, and with the likes of the Zoom connector now, we can actually get full visibility of our enterprise estate. And in relation to service updates and improvements that we've made at CyberSeer, the first is customer MITRE attack mapping. So what we're now doing, we're looking at our customers and we're actually mapping what they have to the actual TTPs in the MITRE attack mapping. So if we have a customer who is looking specifically at the likes of privilege escalation, we can actually look to see which log sources correlate better for privilege escalation. Okay, so the idea behind it is we can just run a quick report and we can actually provide a red, amber, green for the whole MITRE attack TTP for that particular customer. And then what we've also done, as well as for a specific customer, we've also done that on particular vendors as well. So we now have a MITRE attack mapping for each of our vendors. So by utilizing multiple vendors, we can actually cover more of that MITRE TTP. Okay. So that's the first thing we've been doing. Threat modeling as well and prioritization. So again, we're getting this from MITRE. We're looking at those APTs and we're looking at those APT groups. And yes, we have insurance companies, we have finance companies, and we know what these groups are actually trying to do and the techniques they're using. So we're now using new threat modeling to actually look to see what techniques they're using and prioritize our threat hunting for those techniques. And then finally, we now have executive metrics. So before we were coming to you to say, right, okay, we found a priority alert, we need to deal with it. Okay, what we've now started to do is actually, we only inform you when we actually see an alert. Now we're actually rolling up in our report systems the actual alerts that we've seen and the investigations that we've been doing and all the triaging behind the scenes, so you can actually see how many new devices have been put on the network from last week as opposed to this week, how many networks are we actually seeing within the tools that we have. Okay, and how many low incidents do we have? How many high incidents do we have? What percentage of those are actually false positives, etc. So we've got those executive metrics now, which can be rolled up into your reports, into your exec team. Okay, and so that was the update from CyberSeer. Obviously, Dan did the update from Exabeam. So if we can pose a question, what do you want to see from us? Do you want to see additional services from CyberSeer, or do you want to see additional functionality from Exabeam? How can we improve our service to you? So it's a really, the question that I pose to you is that. So if you want to take that away and you feel that actually, I wouldn't mind this being added into the service that you're providing me, or actually, I'd like to see Exabeam using working with these products, because there is a particular problem I have around a particular SaaS service. So how can we help you? So that's my final question to you. Obviously, you don't need to shout out now and let me know. You can ping myself an email or Dan an email, or any of the marketing team an email, and then we will respond to you. So if there aren't any questions, and we've not seen any on the chat, so thank you very much for your time. And yes, if you need to contact us, please feel free to. So thank you very much. And thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you.